Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alistair Speirs. I'm a General Manager of the Azure Global Infrastructure team here in the Azure Business Group. So most of my job's taken up with talking about and thinking about how we're expanding our data center footprint, our capacity around the world to bring low latency and data resident services to as much of the world as we can. No good deed goes unpunished, and part of that is working with a lot of different regulations, considerations, and policies around the world. And so when this digital sovereignty topic came up, I guess I was volunteered to help with this as well. So we're going to talk to you about digital sovereignty this morning. But firstly, I want to thank you all for being here. It's Thursday, 3:30 p.m. When I was in the partner ecosystem 20 years ago and Microsoft told me to go to a 3:30 p.m. session, I kind of expect there to be drinks. So thank you all for giving your time and attention here today. Hopefully you'll find this valuable. So let's cover three things. Why digital sovereignty? And perhaps more importantly, why digital sovereignty now? What's going on in the world that is really driving this conversation and changing this conversation than it was perhaps 5 years ago? Secondly, I'll introduce the Microsoft Sovereign Cloud, which is our set of services across public cloud services, private cloud services, and specialized cloud services as well that can help you meet all of these additional requirements and demands as well. And then finally, I'll invite Chris up to talk to you a little bit more about the partner specialization and the partner program we are building to help you unlock partner growth here as well. So to give you a sense of just how fast the world is changing, every 4 to 5 days we're seeing a new rule or regulation or policy edict about AI or cybersecurity, data privacy emerges around the world. Already there's about 1,000 global policy initiatives that we need to take into account as we expand our cloud services around the world. There's 127 nations that have a unique variation of a privacy law or something like this as well. So keeping up with all of this has really become a full-time job. At the same time, global trade, geopolitical concerns are making almost every organization aware of these risks and concerned with these risks to manage them in their own environment as well. And when we think about what digital sovereignty is, there was the old approach of digital sovereignty and sovereign clouds was very much around securing an infrastructure. Think of it as the bunker approach of like, we're going to build our own gates, guards, and guns, and we're going to fill it with as much servers as we can, and we're going to lock it away and lock it away from the world. That's an interesting approach. It works when the technology is stable. It works when the technology doesn't change very much. But in this time of really fast turnover of technology, that locks you into a particularly challenging place. And so you'll find yourself essentially outcompeted with this technology that's coming around. So this new conversation around digital sovereignty we're seeing is about this capability to participate in that global economy, that digital economy, take advantage of the economy of scale that we're seeing in cloud capabilities, use these new AI technologies that I'm sure we've drilled into you already this week, agents and IQs and foundries and all of that, but still secure it, still manage it, still keep it under control, still keep it in the jurisdictions that you want it to be in. That's really what digital sovereignty means today. And it's a far wider conversation. No longer is it just public sector and some regulated industries like financial services. Now, manufacturing organizations are coming across this digital sovereignty risk, in many cases for the first time, as we're seeing more tariffs and other things being enacted by countries around the world. And while a bank has relatively developed risk mitigation strategies and risk management teams, oftentimes a manufacturer or an exporter doesn't. And so they're starting from a different place as they're addressing many of these risks as well. So this is something that we expect to see continue. This is a new normal, if you like. And so as we're thinking about the product capabilities that we need to build in and the approach that Microsoft is taking to address these capabilities, a couple of things need to be true. Firstly, this needs to be available to everybody. It needs to be built into the foundation of all of our products, whether that's Office 365, Microsoft 365, Azure, our security capabilities, our Power Apps capabilities, our AI capabilities. It just now is a starting point. It's a foundational service. It has to be delivered everywhere. Secondly, sovereignty is about a set of controls. That's how we can meet this sovereignty concern and take this emotional topic into an implementable solution. And so a set of controls are made up of technical controls, and we'll give you so many technical controls, you'll be sick of them. But also, it's contractual controls. It's a set of contractual controls built into the contracts, built into the data processing agreements, built into the legal terms that you will operate these services for or on behalf of your customers. And then finally, it's a set of operational controls. How do you use the service? We can give you the most secure encrypted service in the world, but if you're not operating it appropriately, you're leaving the door ajar. And then finally, it is workload dependent. Across industries, across companies, and even within a company, you will find different sovereign controls being required for different types of workloads. There is some highly critical infrastructure that customers will be willing to accept not having the latest and greatest capabilities, not having the best ROI or economics of it, if it means that it's fully under control and it's fully managed on their environment. At the same time, there'll be other services that need to stay in a legal jurisdiction and other services that may be global. And so we need to manage this complex matrix of different services that will have different sovereignty requirements to answer the question of, wait, what does sovereignty mean to you? Now, we announced this in April and June of this year, but really it's building on a long history of sovereign capabilities that we've been building into this product. This is not a new thing by any means. Sovereignty, compliance, a lot of different names for these kind of capabilities has really bubbled up over time. But we've been building these products, and essentially they are stepping stones across our environment to build out this approach as well. As we think about Europe, Europe often sets the direction for many other markets to follow. One of the great things about Europe is it's a harmonized regulatory environment across multiple countries. And so we can target essentially one definition of sovereignty to meet a lot of different needs there. And I'd love to see just a hands up in the audience. Who is doing business in Europe today? Almost everybody. Yeah, it's such an interesting, it's in the title of the session, self-selecting. But it's true of many organizations now. Our supply chains, our customer base really stretch across the world. And so meeting European requirements, whether that's GDPR, whether that's EU Data Act, the upcoming EU AI Act, becomes something that we all need to think about and implement into our approach as well. Perhaps the number one question that we get, though, is what if? What if the Hollywood scenario of some sort of giant Godzilla creature digs up and chews through all of the transatlantic cable crossings and cuts us off? What if there's geopolitical tension, there's wars, there's sanctions, there's tariffs? And what if, Microsoft, you're compelled by a government to hand over data or stop doing business with us as well? My answer to this question is, of course, we have a lot of lawyers at Microsoft. But more than that, it's about the legal and contractual processes that we put in place. We take this very seriously, and we've built it into our processes of how we approach these capabilities. We've built it into our contracts to defend our customers' data as well. And we're also committed to open access and data exports so that the cloud and Microsoft products are not a one-way trip, that you're able to get that content out as you need it as well. These are built into our contracts. We have more experience than anyone else enforcing these, using these. And I would also say this is not specific to the United States or Europe or other markets. Many, many countries have extraterritorial laws that affect data that may not reside in that jurisdiction, but are about citizens or about interests of that nation as well. And so this extraterritorial capability is very much a global concern around the world as well. For Europe, earlier this year, we set out a set of European digital commitments. These essentially our commitments and our promises and approaches to really define how we will operate our cloud services across Europe and the approach that we will take as well. Because all these regulations are harmonized across Europe, it provides us a really interesting framework, a comprehensive set of guidelines to follow and principles to follow that we can then implement into our products, implement into our go-to-market, and help you all follow these things as well. I find the most important thing about these trusted relationships is we need to be very transparent with you all of how we will do things, and we need to be very consistent with how we roll these capabilities out as well, so that you can build offerings and capabilities and get the economy of scale of doing those same types of work consistently and know what Microsoft is going to do as well. So in Europe, customers' expectations are very clear: how data must be protected, how the services have to remain resilient, how technology has to contribute to the overall long-term competitiveness of European organizations as well. And so these are the 5 commitments that we've laid out as well. And the product instantiation of these is what we call the Microsoft Sovereign Cloud. You know, a comprehensive set of sovereignty solutions that span not just Azure, but Microsoft 365, our security capabilities, and our AI capabilities as well. On the public cloud side, in Europe, data stays in Europe under European law. This is our European Union data boundary that we've had for a while now. All of our operations and access are controlled by European personnel in these data centers in Europe. Also, the choice of AI models and the AI processing when you're using Microsoft 365 Copilot or you're using AI Foundry data zones stays in Europe as well. So you can be confident, and your customers can be confident, that those services are operating and stay in Europe in the Microsoft Sovereign Cloud. Now, we can do this in Europe a little bit differently for the rest of the world. We have data boundaries. We have advanced data residency capabilities to keep Microsoft 365 data in a particular country. We have, of course, in Azure, you choose a region and your content stays in that region as well. But across Europe, we have over 16 data center regions. And so there's a level of resilience and completeness that we have in Europe under one set of harmonized regulations that allows us to take this extra step as well. But that's not going to solve all needs as well. And so we need a great private cloud solution. And up until this point, a lot of private cloud solutions have been based on on-premises technology. Once upon a time, the cloud was just a collection of servers, a collection of relatively on-premises servers, but the paths have really diverged. And so the cloud capabilities now look very different to what you would run in a on-premises server rack or something like that. And to be honest, it's very hard to squeeze all that cloud stuff back in the box to fit in that environment. So our sovereign private cloud approach using Azure Local, Microsoft 365 Local, and Azure Local is kind of the opposite. It's taking the public cloud capabilities and taking the subset of those public capabilities that will work on the private cloud. So you can essentially treat the private cloud as just another data center region, just another choice in the drop-down in a connected mode, or you can cut that connection and you can essentially operate it fully disconnected as well. If you've been following Azure Stack, Azure Local for a while now, you probably have a set of preconceived capabilities around scale, the 16 nodes and those sorts of scale limitations as well. Today, Azure Local really expands to rack scale, hundreds of nodes, thousands of nodes, SAN connections as well. So if you haven't looked at Azure Local in a while, I'd really encourage you to familiarize yourself with the scale that's available there as well. We are integrating the cloud and productivity with Microsoft 365 Local as well. What is Microsoft 365 Local? It's Exchange Server, it's SharePoint Server, and it's Skype for Business Server. Doesn't sound that interesting. The interesting piece here is that none of those products have ever virtualized well. Anyone tried to virtualize Exchange? sure there's someone in the audience that, yeah, there we go. There's always one. They don't virtualize very well. And so what we've had to do with Azure Local, which is really designed for these scalable, elastic type of workloads, is essentially make configuration changes that allow Azure Local to sort of give that bare metal kind of configuration for an Exchange, a supported Exchange server, a supported SharePoint server, and a supported Skype for Business server as well. Teams, one of those cloud-native workloads that just doesn't fit back in the box. It's designed for thousands and thousands of scale. But Skype for Business can work on that platform as well. So think of it as a known good configuration, a supported configuration from Microsoft, an extended support life cycle for those products on this narrowly defined set of hardware infrastructure as well. And then finally, AI capabilities are the latest thing we've brought to the sovereign public cloud. AI capabilities using our Azure Local services, using many ML capabilities, and of course, AI as infrastructure, if you like, through the use of GPU-enabled virtual machines or CPU inference that can be run on those chips as well. Thirdly, national partner clouds. In certain scenarios, even that's not enough. There are certain jurisdictions of the world that really demand not just in-country expertise, but in-country ownership of that cloud environment as well. These are generally nationally appointed organizations. There's a particular regulation that requires domestic ownership of that full supply chain as well. And in these cases, we have an extensible model as well. There are 2 countries around the world that have these requirements today. In Germany, the German government has defined, or the BSI has defined a set of cloud requirements. And those cloud requirements really mandate for certain organizations to run on German-owned infrastructure. We accomplished that through an organization called Delos Cloud, which is a subsidiary of SAP, a German company. And what we're able to do in this case, with an organization as advanced and sophisticated as SAP, we're able to essentially license our technology, license not a private cloud environment, but a full cloud environment, a full sort of data center scale implementation of Azure and of Microsoft 365 that they can run in a full instance that is disconnected from the rest of the global Azure network. That's essentially what these capabilities can do. And then again, in France, similarly with 𝗲𝗲, designed to meet the French government's, the ANSI department's SecNum cloud requirements, is the 𝗲𝗲 environment, which is a joint venture between Capgemini and Orange. And so those 2 organizations own the infrastructure, own the operations of that infrastructure. We provide the software. It's not as simple as a shrink-wrap box anymore, unfortunately. It's a stream of security updates and features and capabilities as well, but they are monitoring that, they are owning that, and they can operate that at that scale. Typically, there's not many countries in the world that have that level of domestic cybersecurity expertise, IT operations expertise to run this capability. And so it's a very specialized option that we see at this stage. But having that capability, having the ability to do that for the organizations and for the governments that are willing to make those long-term commitments that make these processes justifiable, is what happens. Now, below all of that, though, is a consistent infrastructure management and deployment platform as well, so that you can build for sovereign public cloud, port workloads to the private cloud, or port workloads for national partner clouds as well. Capabilities change over time. That's the lovely thing about dealing with policy and regulations. You're only one election away from a new set of regulations and a new set of policies. And so not locking into any one of these areas. These are essentially deployment time decisions rather than design time decisions. So underneath all of this is this infrastructure management platform across configuration management, resiliency, observability, security and control, and of course, AI assistance portals and tools as well. And this infrastructure supports Windows Server, Linux, containers. You can even run it on lesser clouds if you need to as well. And of course, you can run it on on-premises infrastructure. This is commonly known as our Azure Arc set of capabilities. It's not the full set of Azure public cloud capabilities because some of them are, again, cloud native, but it's really a very comprehensive set of capabilities. And our sovereign landing zone essentially allows you to set up the rules and templates so that your organizations can build solutions to that template that can essentially be fungible. They can move around between any of these deployment form factors, if you like, as well. That's a lot about technology, but what you all know is it's not necessarily about technology at all. It's about what the customer requirement is. And these are the 5 common customer requirements we're hearing right now that we're really building more and more capabilities around as well. Firstly, regulatory requirements. That old chestnut. We already have 100+ compliance frameworks across Azure and Microsoft 365. We'll continue to do those, but as we see regulatory requirements change, we want to make sure this sovereign private cloud and public cloud infrastructure, as well as the national partner cloud infrastructure, can support those regulations as well. Second one that's super interesting is sovereign AI data processing. 3 years ago, we'd say, don't worry about it. Inference is a stateless process. You send in your RAG data, and the model does something, it gives you something back. We'll store the chat logs in your country, but we'll go to whichever GPU is available. It's an API, it's ephemeral, it's in the wind. It's not a good enough answer, really. And so being able to essentially define where that AI processing goes, where that data is moving back and forth, because as these models get bigger, as the amount of information, those parameters that you want to send to that model get bigger and bigger and get more sensitive, you want to control that entire end-to-end chain as well. And so that's where sovereign AI data processing comes in, whether that's in the public cloud, being able to choose particular data center regions that you want that to work in, or whether that's in the private cloud, running on your own infrastructure is a capability here as well. No cloud operator access. I don't even trust my own people, and I definitely don't trust you, Microsoft. So that's where the no cloud operator access capability comes in. Typically, we meet that with a set of encryption capabilities, external key management capabilities, and confidential computing capabilities to be able to build that sort of infrastructure as well. But in addition to having all the encryption capabilities, it's important to have the logging capabilities, the auditability, and the observability of what's going on there as well across all these environments. Data residency, my favorite, because I can make a new postcard for a nice exotic location every time we build a new data center. But data residency is really important for a lot of these regulations and customers as well, whether that's because of some legal requirement, some risk requirement, or if it's a low latency requirement, as we want this stuff to be faster and faster and closer to the point of interest as well. And finally, business continuity. There's the business continuity of what happens in a disaster. How do I run this stuff across multiple regions? So in case there's an earthquake or some massive event, some massive fault line, I don't want all my infrastructure in the same place. On the flip side, there's a business continuity of what if someone is compelled to interfere with my operations to stop me operating that system? What are the capabilities there that I can quickly pivot my risk posture, bring critical services on premises, or bring those services to one of these national partner clouds or hosting providers as well? So these are the 5 key things that we're hearing right now that we're really investing in building this Microsoft Sovereign Cloud capability for. In true Microsoft style, we have a lot of this technology. We describe the private cloud, the public cloud as well. What you'll see from us, though, is focusing much more on these scenarios and landing zones and templated approaches and guidance of how to implement these scenarios that span all of those offerings as well. Now, we've been building and validating this with partners along the way, so I'd like to thank all of these partners that were part of our preview discussions as we've been building out our own digital sovereignty specialization. It's really critical that we could build all this in isolation, but the feedback we get from global partners that are working on this and seeing this in multiple regions, but also national partners as well, domestic partners that only operate in one market. That's critical as well, because in many cases, that's on-the-ground experience that we just don't have at Microsoft. So validating with you all is really critical to make this great solution work. But I'd like to invite Chris Boar up to talk a little bit more about the partner specialization. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Awesome. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Thanks, Alistair, for that. So when we were designing this session, I really wanted Alistair to come in and really talk you through what is digital sovereignty, what is the Microsoft Sovereign Cloud, and I think he's done a really good job doing that, so I appreciate that. So my name's Chris Boar. I'm in our enterprise partner sales team. I'm responsible for go-to-market and partner strategy. And my focus is digital sovereignty. And really that means helping our partners be successful with customers, helping them on their digital sovereignty journey. So that's super important. So I will come back to the digital sovereignty specialization. I'll tell you more about that in a couple of slides. But this session was titled as the partner opportunity. So I want to spend a couple of moments on that, and I actually have somebody else who's going to help me with that. So I've had many conversations with many partners, and the question will come up, actually, Chris, this is not an opportunity, this is actually a problem. This slows me down, this is impacting my pipeline. And I'm actually going to try and hopefully convince you that it can be both of these. It can actually be a blocker, but it can be an opportunity. And actually the question with whether it's a blocker or not comes really down to how good you can be in your sales teams and your pre-sales teams in talking to customers about sovereignty. So let's dig into the blocker side first. I'm going to get to the opportunity in a second, but I think Alistair mentioned some of this, some of the common questions, and this is not a full list, by the way. These are just a few that I've heard in conversations with customers and partners. Things like, how secure is my data? Where does my data sit? Who can access my data? Can a foreign government limit or control access to my data and applications, either at an individual level, an organization level, or even a country level? What if my hyperscaler is told to suspend operations? Like, what is my fallback position? In fact, we hear that a lot from a lot of customers through our partners is, what's my failback? What's my way to back this up? And how quickly can I get there? And what jurisdiction covers my data? All of these kind of things are going to come up in conversations, and I'm hoping, it's kind of hard to see you, to be honest, because of all the lights, but I'm hoping I see some nodding heads that your customers are maybe already asking you these kind of questions. Your pipeline is going to be impacted by how well you can respond. So one of the things I'm doing, and I'll share it with you at the end of the session, is we're building out a lot of training for sales, technical pre-sales, and project delivery to try and help your teams be able to answer some of these questions elegantly, confidently, and show that all of what we do, because it's not just about the technology. I'm thinking, Alistair landed this with you earlier, but it's also about trust in Microsoft. It's about contractual commitments. It's about the EU data boundary, and all these other things are super important. So your ability to help your teams go and have these conversations with customers, I think, is going to help you not necessarily fix it, but maybe help you get past some of that and move on with opportunities. So that's the blocker side. Now, I would like to talk to you about how I think sovereignty is actually a great opportunity for all of you. And honestly, Microsoft can't do this on its own. We need our partners to really lean in and help customers with this journey. But I don't think you're going to listen necessarily to me. So I'm going to ask 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 from Capgemini to join me on stage. Can you give him a round of applause, please? Because he's gone out of his way to be here for this today. You're Executive Vice President, Arno, at Capgemini Invent, and work closely with Microsoft, et cetera. So I have 3 questions for Arno I'd like him to answer today. The first question really is, does Capgemini see this as a blocker or an opportunity?
Well, first, we have to recognize that this topic is a hot topic. When I'm discussing with CIOs, really, this is one of the key questions I have all the time. And the reason for that is maybe 2 reasons. First one is people recognize, and in particular in political area, that sovereignty is a key topic and continuity is a key topic. Second, there are a number of events that generate this topic and put this topic as being really critical. And I would quote, for example, the Romanian election in 2024, where TikTok and Russia just really screwed up this election. So this topic is a hot topic. We have different clients, and different clients have also different expectations related to sovereignty. When you look at sovereignty, obviously military intelligence community is obviously taking that and having this topic from years and decades. Government is increasingly aware of where their data is and how it's being treated, and really consider this as being something more and more important. But also we have a set of regulated industries. You think about payments, you think about energy, you think about water, utilities, health, definitely. But more and more, we have also, and you had the example of manufacturing. I had the example of retailer, taking about and talking about, hey, where is my data? Because I have a lot of data about, purchase, about profiling of customer, etc. Where is it treated? So that's really a hot topic also for these different kinds of clients. Maybe the topic of digital sovereignty is not only about cloud, it's not only about data, but it covers, in our point of view, all the different components of technology. So infrastructure, software, SaaS, AI, obviously. We could add energy. How does it work? Connectivity, definitely. Skills, which is also a part of, are you able to operate this kind of infrastructure and data and information system? So definitely these are different areas, and as a result, we see our clients ask us about what should I do? And the answer is a balance between the risk level and the ability and the benefits that you get. And there is not one. I like to say you have 50 shades of sovereignty. It's definitely something that depends because of location, because of sector and industries, because of appetence to risk, but also because of, hey, if you're doing that, you are not going to benefit about this and this level of new services. Think AI, for example. So that's really a key topic, and we help our clients really deliver or think about what is the risk map, what are the different solutions, and deliver something that is totally aligned with our expectations, not at an enterprise level or organization level. Usually you go far deeper than that in order to make sure that you have something that is truly adequate for a specific client.
Got it. That's great. Thank you very much. So in June, 𝗬𝗲 announced that we were building a digital sovereignty specialization, and on a previous slide, we had a number of partners. Capgemini was one of those. Can you just tell me, how do you feel about the digital sovereignty specialization and CAP's role in that?
Yeah. So first of all, we have been working very closely as Capgemini with Microsoft in the past. 𝗬𝗲 is something that was created as a result of a discussion between Capgemini, Orange, and Microsoft. So it's not new. Second topic is, definitely it's great to be part of this discussion because of the number of requests and questions we receive from our customers. So getting and working very closely with Microsoft has been really a great moment and a great set of question, answer, and discussion and alignment on, what is sovereignty, the definition, the different elements in order to being able to explain what it means to our clients. Maybe just sharing a number of elements in addition. First, I think this sovereignty question is here to last. Mm-hmm. It's not hype. It's definitely something that is important for a European element. Second topic is, so first one, it's important. Second, it's there are multiple definitions. There are multiple elements. So it has to be tuned to each client conversation. And third element, I think Europe is, as you said, Europe is one area, but you got this type of element also. India is developing their sovereignty thinking. You've got multiple areas. You've got, as a global companies, you've got also to take advantage logistics between China and their own specific element, Europe, US, etc. So it's a complex. It's definitely something that is really complex.
So I think you've kind of answered my last question a little bit, which was really, is sovereignty going to go away? Is this a moment in time? But I think you've kind of answered that. But
no, I think definitely. I think it's something that is here to last. It requires commitment. It requires understanding that it's important for our clients. It's important for society also. And definitely, it's I do think that it requires the investment, the understanding, but more than that, I think it's also enabled the trust. And by increasing the trust, I think we increase the opportunity to sell additional services, to increase the impact, and to be more into growth rather than having something that is restricting.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming up on stage.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. I hope that was useful. I think it was really good to hear from Arnaud and Capgemini on that. So let me talk about the digital sovereignty specialization. So hopefully, you should all be partners in the room, really, and very familiar with the Microsoft Cloud and AI Partner Program, and probably familiar with our solutions designations. And then on top of that, our sort of higher tier of credential is our specializations. Now, the digital sovereignty specialization, when we started working through this design process and working with the preview partners, we realized that it wasn't an Azure specialization. It wasn't a modern work specialization. It wasn't a security specialization. It's actually our first one that spans across all three. Now, that led to a little bit of a problem, though, because if we have a specialization that's sort of that broad and that nebulous, you'd be in an audit for days, and we didn't want that. So what we've done is we've decided to leverage the existing specializations that we have across security, modern work, and Azure, and use those as the prereqs. And that's actually a good move, and I hope you'll agree, because what it allows us to do is really focus on the sovereignty piece within the actual specialization and the audit. And I'll move in a moment to the prereq slide. So we started working on this in June, and actually we've launched it. It actually went live November 6th at the AI Tour in Frankfurt. We announced its availability then. And partners that meet the prereqs, we will be reaching out to you, either directly or through your PDM if you're a managed partner. So you'll know if you're in a position where you can move forward and take the audit. And some of you will be, and some of you may not be yet. So let's talk about the prereqs. I've got 6 minutes to get through a couple of slides. First of all, the prereqs. I do want to make the point, this is a pretty high bar. This is not a specialization that's going to be just for anybody. This really is looking for partners who have capabilities across security, we need 3 of the security specializations: cloud security, data security, and identity and access. We need an infrastructure or Azure specialization, so either InfraDB migration, Azure Expert MSP, or the VMware solution. And then we also need modernized endpoints from modern work, because our sovereignty solution, as Alistair talked about earlier, covers all of that in the Microsoft Sovereign Cloud. So that's the prereqs. So let's say you've got all the prereqs, and actually many partners do, which is great. What does the audit look like? The audit was probably the hardest bit to nail, to be honest. And what we ended up with was taking a sort of 2-axis approach. So on the left-hand side, we really have a life cycle approach across assessment, architecture, implementation, management, and then a kind of catch-all we called overarching. And then we overlay that in the other direction, if you will, with what's measured here. That's control of data, control of operations, control of platform and services, and control of outcomes. That then led us to build what is in the checklist. Now, if you've been through an Azure specialization before, you'll know that you can download the checklist. And I really recommend, if you're interested in getting the digital sovereignty specialization, that you do that. Read it, carve out some time, and really get familiar with what we're looking for in terms of evidence. So if any of you are not familiar with our specializations, you have to have evidence of real customer projects. We're not looking to give a badge out to a partner that likes to do sovereignty but actually hasn't done it yet. We actually need to know that you've gone and worked with customers and have real world implementation. We want more than one evidence because we want to know that you can do this in a repeatable fashion, that you can do it again and again. And that's what earns you the badge that you can then say you're a digital sovereignty specialized partner. Okay. I'm not going to drain every one of these. Some of these benefits for achieving the digital sovereignty specialization are consistent with our other specializations. For example, the Azure credits and things like that. But the 2 things I do want to call out to you are, 1, the community. When we were working with the preview partners, they said, hey, we would like to get advanced access to your engineering, to your marketing teams. Let us know what's coming around digital sovereignty so that we can be up to date and advanced and ready for it. So we're going to run a closed community for partners that achieve the digital sovereignty specialization. It'll be a mix of online and web calls, where we're going to hopefully build that community and help you do just that. I thought it was a great idea. I'm going to lead it, so I'm looking forward to that. And then co-sell. I hear from partners often is, bring me pipeline, bring me deals. And so as a result of becoming a digital sovereignty specialized partner, we're going to be working with our sales teams to promote your capabilities so that if a seller has an opportunity and they need sovereign help, that we'll be pointing them to the partners that achieve this spec. Does that make sense? So, wow, with 2 minutes to go, I'm doing okay. 3 things really that I wanted to call out at the end of this session. The first one is, we have been working hard to build out a lot of content, a lot of training. We've done some of it in person. We ran an event in the Netherlands. We ran an event in Munich in Germany. We're going to be running other events. And we're also getting that content built out online so that you can take advantage of it even if you're unable to travel. So I really would recommend you look at that. There's sales content, there's technical pre-sales content, and the project-ready content will be coming. It may actually be there now, but if not, it'll be in the next couple of days. In the AI tour for partners in Europe, in the London, Paris, Zurich, and I'm missing one, Frankfurt events, we're adding a sovereignty track to run alongside the AI tracks. And honestly, I think it makes a ton of sense to put these 2 things together because you might get customers interested in AI, but they're going to come back to you with those sovereign questions at the beginning, and your teams need to know how to address that. So I think that was a good join. And then the middle column here, obviously, leverage the materials. A lot of the stuff that Alex went over earlier, we've made partnerized versions of that. We'll make that available to you through these links. So leverage that content, go build your pipeline, work with customers, get the evidence, because then you can move on into the digital sovereignty specialization and achieve that. Hopefully that you've met all the prereqs. So. With that, I want to thank Alistair again so much at the beginning of this session, going over what is digital sovereignty and the Microsoft Sovereign Cloud. Thank you for that. I want to thank Arno so much for coming from Capgemini. I really enjoyed that portion. It was great. And I want to thank all of you for spending time on a Thursday afternoon at Ignite at 3:30 as well, and being engaged in the topic. I think sovereignty is super important, and I hope that what I can do is help all of you be more successful with Microsoft Sovereign Cloud. So with that, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to come up. I think Alistair can stay around a little bit and we can chat.